Hello friends, my name is Arith Härger and today I'm going to talk about Lammas and Freyfaxi. So let's just say that this is a sort of introductory video for those who are taking the first steps into the path of paganism and want to know about the pagan celebrations throughout the year. So today I'm going to talk about Lammas or Lughnasadh, and throughout this video I will refer to this celebration as Lughnasadh, and then I will talk about Freyfaxi. So let's get started. So Lughnasadh is the Irish Gaelic celebration in honor to the god Lugh, the god associated with the sun, fire and agriculture. This term derives from the junction of two different words, Lugh, the deity, and Nasadh, which apparently means assembly. Now we know our ancestors used to make gatherings, moots, to settle all kinds of disputes and also to discuss the activities and the problems of the community. But this assembly means a gathering of people to make a festivity, a celebration in honor to something. So Lughnasadh is the celebration in honor to the god Lugh. And this celebration in the Northern Hemisphere is held at the 1st of August, or somewhere between the summer solstice and the autumn equinox. And this is also a celebration, the celebration of the first harvest of the year. In mythology, it is said that this celebration was created by the god Lugh himself to honor the death of his mother, or his foster mother in some accounts, a goddess associated with agriculture. Now, myths are not just fantasy, they are an ethnicity code trying to explain through metaphors and using religious understanding, trying to explain the historical and cultural background of a society. So it seems to our ancestors it was very common to make funeral games in honor, for instance, deceased chieftain, someone of importance in their community or in their society. So this shows that this festivity began with sporting contexts and probably even music and dancing and all sorts of recreational activities with a ceremonial pretext. So it's also possible that even marriages were held during this time, during this celebration, and quite possibly initiation rites. And I could give you a couple of examples, but I don't want to extend this too much in the video, so we can talk about that in the comments below. Like Candlemas, this is a festivity to celebrate the sun, the light and the warm weather. At the first days of February, the first seeds are thrown into the fertile soils, and in August comes the first harvest. The wheat reflects the bright colors of the sun. So Lughnasadh is not just a celebration in honor to the god Lugh, but also a celebration of the first harvest. And as I've told you before, this is the first harvest of the year, and the next harvest is at the end of October in the celebration of Samhain. So Lugh is the god associated with fire, light and the sun in the Celtic pantheon. But for instance, in old Lusitania, a Roman province in nowadays Portugal and parts of Spain, and of course to a variety of Celtic-like tribes throughout the Iberian Peninsula, this god was known as Lugos, the god of music, metallurgy, poetry and also dancing, reporting to a time when agriculture wasn't that important to our ancestors, reporting to a time of initiation rites and a celebration to fire, light and the sun. To the ancient pagan tribes of Europe, harvesting was the main source of food production, so it was really important to succeed when it comes to planting and harvesting. In the end, all the efforts, all the hard work bear fruit. So the family, the tribe, the community could live and survive for another year, for another winter. So all the hard work in the end really paid off. So this is also a time to celebrate with the family and to praise the importance of each member of the family in how their hard work kept the family safe and sound. Now let's talk about the celebration of Freyfaxi. Like the Celtic celebration of Lughnasadh, to the northern countries of Europe and their people, there was a similar celebration called Freyfaxi or Loaffest. And to our Anglo-Saxon ancestors, this celebration would be called Láfmæst. So this celebration, this harvest celebration, traditionally occurred at the end of July or at the beginning of August, or with the coming of the full moon of August. As you know, to our Norse ancestors, a full moon marked the end of a month. So if there are 13 full moons, there were 13 months. The name Freyfaxi comes from Freyr's horse, which has an interesting background story that I will sum up for you further ahead in this video. Well, Freyr is the god of fertility, just like his sister, the goddess Freya. But not just fertility when it comes to sexual interactions, also fertility of the soils, because Freyr and Freya are the gods associated with agriculture. At this time of the year, during this celebration, people tend to make offerings to the god Freyr due to his connection with fertility and agriculture, since this is the time for harvesting. But in truth, people can make offerings to whoever they want, because this is not just planting the seeds, but also the love we give to the soils and all the hard work, so the soils can give us food, sustenance. So this is also a time to celebrate with the family and to make offerings to the land Veithir, the spirits of the land that can help us in growing fruits and vegetables. And also making, of course, offerings to the gods and all the gods associated with fertility, and also to make offerings to our ancestors who still watch over us, and they can take action in the harvesting fields, in the plantations of each family, taking care of the family even after death. Now let's make a little pause and I will summarize for you the story of Freyfaxi so you can have a glimpse of what this celebration is about. Not just celebrating the first harvest and fertility and celebrating fire, the sun and light. There is more to it. So let's go. This celebration is not just turned to the family and to the harvests, but also to the values and virtues of each one that lead us to a better life. So there is a story behind this celebration, the story of Hrafnkel. This story is about a man which was a clan chief called Hrafnkel Freygodi. He had a farm and lots of sheep. He also had a beautiful blue stallion that lived and roamed in the mountains near Hrafnkel's farm with a herd of mares. Like the last name of Hrafnkel suggests, Freygodi, he was a man of Freyr and he had a lot of faith in the god of agriculture and fertility. So he gave his stallion to the god, making of it an offering and also an oath in the process, that if any other man than Hrafnkel himself rode his horse, he would kill him. The horse could only be mounted by Hrafnkel and by Freyr. Oaths were not to be taken lightly at these times. If a man made an oath, he would have to fulfill it. So the horse was called Freyfaxi, Freyr, after the name of his new owner, the god Freyr, and Faxi, meaning high-catching mane. Hrafnkel hired the oldest son of his neighbor. His name was Einar, and his work would be to take Hrafnkel's sheep to a pasture every day and deliver them every evening to their place in the mountain cabin. He would also have to cut the firewood that was needed in the farm. He was also tasked to look after Freyfaxi and the 12 mares. Of course, Hrafnkel told Einar about his oath, so Einar could use any of the other horses for whatever he needed, whenever he needed, except Freyfaxi, and Einar thought that this was a very fair deal. Einar worked hard and well for the entire summer, but one day some sheep were missing, and he couldn't find them anywhere. He searched for an entire week, so in despair he went to the mares, hoping to ride one to go into more distant sites, but when he arrived, all the mares ran away. Only Freyfaxi stood there, motionless as a stone. Einar thought that his only way to find the sheep was getting into Freyfaxi's back and ride. Hrafnkel would never know about this, so Einar went with Freyfaxi and actually found the sheep, turning all of them to their rightful place, doing his job as always. Freyfaxi galloped all the way down the mountain till he was near Hrafnkel's farm. The horse was all wet from sweat, so it was leaking from every hair. It was very muddy and panting from the previous riding with Einar, so Hrafnkel knew that someone had mounted Freyfaxi and it wasn't Freyr. So Hrafnkel went in searching for Einar with an axe, and after a long conversation he asked Einar if he had mounted Freyfaxi. Einar said that he couldn't deny that, so he told him the truth, and why he had to do so. Hrafnkel said to Einar that he had done well in telling the truth, and he would have forgiven Einar, but he was bound to that dire oath. And when oaths are made, they have to be fulfilled, so Hrafnkel gave a fatal blow to Einar, killing the young man. Later, Hrafnkel made a respectable gravesite for Einar. Einar's father was of course not happy about this, and this is just the beginning of a long and tragic saga. Hrafnkel in this story is always bound to his oaths and ends up with a tragic life, making a lot of enemies. He would have to fight all his life because of his deeds. He couldn't break his promise to the god, Freyr, even if this gave him so much pain and suffering. This is a story that shows us the importance of oaths and that we mustn't take them lightly. We can't take oaths when our mind isn't clear. We only take oaths when we know we will fulfill them. Otherwise, if we break them, it will be very hard for other people to trust us and we will lose our honor. This story also shows us that during this time of the year, during this celebration Freyfaxi, people probably will take oaths. As I have told you before in another video, for our Norse ancestors, oaths would not last a lifetime. At the beginning of the year, people would retake their oaths over and over again. So probably during this time of the year, during this celebration, this was a perfect time to make oaths in a ceremony with the god Freyr being the witness, and probably the god Hulr, who is a god, a Norse god associated with oaths. But about Hulr for another time in another video. Alright friends, thank you so much for watching. All the links to my social media are down below at the description. See you on the next video, and as always, tack för idag!